So I'm Ben Bonk. I'm an indie game developer and college student who's been making games for around 8, 9 years now. I've done lots of game jams. I've also released a commercial project called Slime Keep, which took me 5 years to make. And that's a indie roguelike top-down kind of shooter game where you kill and capture slimes to stop the corruption that's infected your land. And I also documented my whole entire series as a developer and the development of Slime Keep on my YouTube channel, which I make YouTube devlogs, just showing how I make games. And I try to emphasize honesty and transparency when I can.
What is the story behind the name Ben Bonk?
I think people expect it just to be like, oh, my name's Ben and I like to bonk people, which isn't true. Essentially, I was in a 7th grade class and we used to play this game called Kahoot. There would always be this guy named Joe who named himself Joe Bonk. And I was like, oh, that sounds funny. I'll just copy him one time. And I made my name on the game Bennett Bonk, which is my real name. And then I shortened it to Ben Bonk. And I was like, oh, that kind of sounds good. I'll use that from now on. And so that was many years ago, but I've been kind of stuck with Ben Bonk ever since.
So you worked a lot on Slime Keep, right? So obviously there are gonna be a few hard design problems. How do I design mechanic X, or how do I solve a specific problem? Like, what was the hardest challenge that you had there, and how did you fix that?
I think the hardest challenge for me was because in the game you can essentially you face slimes and you can either kill them or capture them. I wanted both paths to be viable. Ideally, I wanted the player to do a mix between killing and capturing slimes, and that was a real challenge to get balanced correctly. Just because if you make the killing too strong, then players will just never even capture slimes. If you make the capturing too strong, players will never kill slimes. And just getting that right was very difficult, especially considering that I kind of just threw in the capture system early on without much testing, even making sure it was fun or not, which I really regret. So I kind of just threw that system in. I was like, okay, I want to differentiate my game from other games. I'm going to add a capture system. I want to try to make it fun and stuff, even though it might have not been the most ideal thing to add at the time. But from then on, I just kind of had to keep on balancing it and trying to improve it to make sure it was as fun as killing. And I'm not sure if I ever got there, but I still think it's a pretty fun system. But just keeping the balance between capturing and killing slimes was always the hardest thing for me to do, because I reworked the capturing system and the benefits it gives you so many times over the course of development that was just never something that went smoothly whatsoever.
So how did you test that then?
But I definitely think I could have been more thorough in my testing, but I mean, I essentially just sent out the copies to a bunch of playtesters and was like, you know, is this fun? Ask them a bunch of questions about their experience. Like, are you just killing slimes? Or are you just capturing slimes? You know, I quickly realized early on with some of the playtesters, they were just like, no, I completely forgot the capture gun is even in the game. I never capture slimes. I just kill all of them. So I was like, okay, well, that's an issue. So I have to try to fix that now. And so I just kept on kind of trying to iterate and just improve the system to get it to a point where people actually understand the importance of the capture gun and actually want to use it alongside their weapon. So, you know, they kind of work synergistically together.
In the world of game dev, mechanics are very important. How do you know when a mechanic is worth keeping versus cutting?
But I think the big thing is obviously the scope of your project is the biggest thing. If you have a mechanic and it's just going to add a ton more scope to the game, you just really have to keep in mind what your goals are as a developer, how much time you want to spend on the project. People always suggested to me to add like biomes and all this like new complex stuff to the game. And although I think that's a really cool mechanic, I always just had to shut it down because I knew I had to keep in mind the scope of the game. If you make a new mechanic, it's just very important to give that mechanic to players early on and test it to see if it's actually fun, because you can kind of tell early on with a mechanic, like if it's fun or works or not. You should probably just make a very basic demo of it, give it to some players, test it, do all that stuff to make sure it's actually fun and is a good system before you develop it all the way out. So I think that's the most important thing.
So how would you say the game changed from how you originally envisioned it?
I think Slime Keep is, again, kind of an anomaly because I never really had the clearest vision for what the game was even going to be, which is definitely a mistake in itself. So it's hard to say, but I mean, it definitely grew in scope because the game started out so simple. It was literally just a kind of round-based shooter game. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to turn it into a roguelike. And then as people kept like leaving suggestions early on, sure, I'll add this system and this system. So my original vision was never very that clear, but it was definitely formed throughout the progress of development, just from playtesters and from YouTube commenters and all that stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for people. I would definitely say you should have a clear vision for your project and know what you want to make, but you also need to be open to an extent to changing that original vision.
You're known for using a limited color palettes. What drew you to that style? And what constraints make creativity easier or harder?
So as for the green color palette, I think I was just looking on Lost Spec one day, which is a like color palette website for pixel artists, and I just thought all the limited color palettes looked cool. And as I kind of used them more, I really appreciated the limited color palettes just because it made making art a lot faster, and I didn't have to think about like choosing the best colors or what colors things should be. I could just have my 4 colors and just go from there. Although there's definitely drawbacks with this system. I mean, visual variation can be hard to do because when you're working with 4 colors, it's easy for everything to kind of look the same. So can be difficult in that, but I still really enjoy the style. And for constraints, I don't know if I would say in the art sense it's made me more creative. In that sense, I can't really think that like, oh, I've really sparked some new creativity because I'm only using 4 colors. But I would say in general, though, constraints definitely make creativity easier because obviously the first thing I go to is game jams, where if you just give them no limitations, you're like, just make whatever game you want to do. It's so easy to just get overloaded with choices. But if you give someone like a theme in a game jam or a limitation, instantly that just sparks so many more ideas, and it's just so much easier to come up with a creative concept. And the more constraints you do have, the more creative you can be, obviously until a certain extent.
On the topic of YouTube content, so you worked on Slime Keep, you did devlogs while doing that, and you basically produced a bunch of YouTube content while working on your games. So how did you balance all that?
I'll be honest, it was really hard to balance. I mean, for the longest time, my typical strategy was just I'd work for like 3 weeks on my game, and then I'd spend 1 week on the devlog. And that worked pretty well. I actually did kind of enjoy that because at the end of the 3 weeks, I'd be kind of tired of working on the game and I wanted to work on something else. So I could kind of take a break in a sense by just editing the devlog. So that was nice. It's definitely not easy to balance at all. As a game dev, you have to wear many hats. Like you have to be an artist and a musician and a programmer and a marketer. But then with being a YouTuber, I'd say like that just adds so much more hats onto your head because you also have to be a thumbnail designer and a video editor and analytics person and all this stuff. It just is a lot to manage. And so I don't think it's for everyone. I really do enjoy making videos a lot of the time because, I mean, at the end of the day, a video is like a story. I think there's a lot of creativity that can go in videos. So I really do enjoy that part per se.
Do you ever feel pressured by your viewers to make devlogs? And does that motivate you to your projects?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel the pressure because I think that's one of like the biggest reasons why I was even able to work on Slime Keep for 5 years straight. Is just because I'd upload the video every month and my kind of fans would kind of come to expect that video, I think. And so I really don't think I could have done it without their motivation and their, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but I really do think the YouTube channel just kept me motivated because I just, if I was feeling kind of tired of working in game development or wasn't feeling as confident about something, I could upload a video and then I'd get, tons of positive comments, but also tons of feedback for me to work on. So it definitely did keep me motivated.
So what's a thing that you wish more game dev YouTubers would stop doing or maybe even start doing?
Maybe making game development seem so like sunshine and rainbows all the time. Because at the end of the day, it is hard. I think some YouTubers, it's not necessarily their fault, but a lot of them kind of just, make game development just seem super easy. Like they're like, oh, I made this game, and they kind of just like gloss over everything. And I mean, I've definitely done that to an extent myself, but I also just don't want people to have an unrealistic expectation of game development, because at the end of the day, like, it is hard. I mean, it is really hard, and I try to show hardships, but sometimes, they aren't just as interesting as progress. But I mean, I definitely understand why people don't want to mention every single issue they run into, because that definitely gets tired. But I think it's just something that people could be cognizant of, just so people don't have unrealistic expectations of the ease of development.
Looking back, what was your turning point for your channel?
Turning point would definitely have to be when I uploaded the first Slime Keep devlog, which the game started out as a game jam game, and before that I'd done YouTube videos and I was getting, maybe like 100 or 200 views a video, but that was the first video of mine that just blew up kind of, and I remember it got like 20k views or something in a week, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I got a few hundred subscribers, and so I was like, well, I wasn't planning on continuing developing the game, but I was like, people seem to like this, so I'll just make a follow-up video. And then I just did that, and I just kind of rode the wave, I guess, of Slime Keep hype at the beginning. And if it wasn't for that video, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so it was all just that video that just sparked everything and really just made me focus more on game development and game development YouTube.
What lesson did you learn from developing Slime Keep that you can apply to your new project?
Slime Keep was kind of my first real big project, and I really didn't know what I was doing at all in the beginning. I think for future projects, I'm just focusing on creating good game architecture early on, because so much of the code in Slime Keep was just so poorly written and not scalable or modifiable, and there's just so many poorly designed systems that just kind of bit me in the back later on in development. So just focusing on getting a good game architecture set up early on is definitely a priority for me. Also, just, a rapid development cycle, I think, because although I spent 5 years on the game, you do not need to spend 5 years on a game to make a great game. You can make great games in a year or 6 months or 3 months or whatever it might be that are still Steam ready to go. And I definitely don't think I'm doing another very long-term project, because I respect people who do long-term projects, but I also don't think it's necessary. So it really just depends on your intentions and motivations and what you want to do. And I think those are definitely some of the biggest takeaways I've gotten from Slime Keep.
So what's your next project, or what's next post Slime Keep?
I am actually developing another game. It is a continuation of my GMTK game jam game that I released this summer. And me and another developer and our composer are just going to be continuing developing that, because I think we got a really, really good base for the GMTK game jam, and it ranked pretty highly, and it just seemed like people really enjoyed what we had going. So it's a game called Wrange. You just kind of lasso animals together, and you get points and cash, and you can build your barn. It's a barn builder roguelike. And we just found it to be really fun and got really positive feedback from the game jam. So we're just going to spend a few months just kind of polishing it up, adding more content, and then just make a Steam release and just, charge a few bucks for it and just hope people enjoy it, and definitely applying a lot of the lessons learned from Slime Keep. I'm just doing things very differently now, just, really trying to manage scope early on, just trying to do things quickly and efficiently and making sure the architecture set up there. But I'm definitely excited for this next project.
For one of the fun wrap-ups of this YouTube channel, I would love to hear your best slime impression.
Oh boy. Okay. I really don't. I mean, they just make a squish sound. I just like. Oh, I don't know. Wait, let me think.
Hardest question.
I don't know if that came through my mind. I'm just trying to make noises with my voice.
But talking with other devs always reminds me of how much game development comes down to solving problems you didn't expect, and honestly, that's why I enjoy Brilliant. This video is sponsored by them, and Brilliant helps you become a better thinker, problem solver, and they're doing that through interactive thousands of lessons in math, science, programming, and even AI. What makes it work for me is especially that everything is hands-on. You're not just watching or memorizing, you're actually experimenting and building intuition as you go. And I think that's why it clicks so well for game developers. We're always debugging, prototyping, or chasing down weird edge cases, and Brilliant's style of active problem solving is the exact same mindset. Plus, the lessons are genuinely fun, which makes it easy to learn little by little every day. To learn for free, go to brilliant.org/overload, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. Ta-da! Brilliant has also given viewers 20% off the annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything that Brilliant has to offer. Thanks again to Brilliant for supporting this channel, and now let's jump back into the interview with Ben Bonk. Out of all the slimes you have in the game, which one is your favorite and why?
Yeah, my favorite I think would have to be the nerdy slime in the game. It's like this slime with glasses within a book, and he like does calculations, and then depending on the result of that calculation, he shoots like that many projectile bombs towards you. And so, you know, the more he grows, the bigger his calculations will get. Like he unlocks multiplication. I find it kind of fun. It was fun to program, and I like his design and his mechanics, where he's just this nerdy guy who just does calculations to throw bombs at you. So that one's probably my favorite.
What is advice that you would give to other indie developers?
Firstly, I mean, start small. Obviously, this has been said a million times, but don't make your dream game as the first thing you do, because you're probably not ready even if you think you are. And you just want to start small, build your skills up, and then when you're finally ready, go for it. And just learn the architecture, learn the importance of creating scalable, reusable code. And just like, don't be discouraged if it feels like it takes forever for things to click. I mean, it took me so long to actually like have things click in development. I never thought I could really be a game developer because I found it so hard at the beginning, but I just kept having to push through, and I was like, I know I can get this, and I'm so glad I did. And just, you know, don't quit your projects. Game dev is not easy, but I think it's worth the time in the end. And obviously there's a time and place for leaving a project, but try to finish everything you make if you can. And I guess finally, I just say, like, understand your intentions with game development. So it's like, are you trying to do this for a living, or are you just doing this for fun? It really depends what you want to do with game development, and just set realistic expectations based on your intentions. You know, it is a tough industry, so just try and make the most fun thing you can make, and make a game that you're happy with. And that's, I think, the ultimate goal of game development.
Is there anything else you want to say before I stop recording?
Let me see. Buy Slimekeep if you haven't already, and check out Wrange. By the time this video comes out, the Steam page should be up, and hopefully a demo. So yeah, and I think that's pretty much it.
And with that, share your game dev story in the comments down below. I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.